that are being entertained. All right, thanks so much, Boris Sanchez. Appreciate it from the White House. All right, let's discuss the latest developments on this government shutdown, where members of Congress are on all of this right now. Joining me right now, Dave Jacobson, a CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist. Also with me is John Thomas, a Republican strategist. Good to see you both. All right, so Dave, your sentiments on what we heard from these leaders of the Senate, from Lindsey Graham to Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, talking about they need to essentially take the reins here. I mean, it's going as far as saying there is a lack of leadership, the inference to the White House, and that it's up to the Senate now to do something. Your reaction?
I think that's right. I mean, it reminds me of a quote that Congressman Ted Lieu put out earlier today, where he referenced the president. He said, look, a stable genius who's leader of the party that controls both houses of Congress and the White House wouldn't put us in this position. Let's not forget, this is the first time in modern history where one party rules all branches of government, and yet they led to a shutdown. Moreover, it's not just Democrats that voted against the funding bill the other day. Republicans, including Mike Lee, Rand Paul, Lindsey Graham, voted against this as well. So it's not just Democrats who want to get a deal done. And the other thing I'll mention is the other day CBS put out a poll that said 92% of Americans want more cooperation and consensus building in Washington. And I think that's what the senators alluded to today.
Okay, and this was Lindsey Graham a bit earlier, particularly talking about almost interference, coming from White House advisor Stephen Miller. Listen.
I've talked with the president. His heart is right on this issue. I think he's got a good understanding of what will sell. And every time we have a proposal, it is only yanked back by staff members. As long as Stephen Miller is in charge of negotiating immigration, we're going nowhere. He's been an outlier for years. There's a deal to be had.
All right, so John, I mean, that's a pretty direct, challenge to the White House staff, even though Lindsey Graham did praise the president by saying, he was really good a week ago. He also underscored that the staff, and I'm quoting now, is unreliable, and that's largely why we may be at this juncture.
I think Senator Graham's making a huge mistake to litigate this issue on television. He's not going to do anything good by throwing shade at White House staff. Let's not forget, Senator Graham is soft on immigration. He was part of that Gang of Eight that is dramatically out of touch with what most Republicans want. So, of course, he wants the president to cave on immigration. But let me remind my frenemy, Dave Jacobson, a little math equation, Dave. As much as you say it's Trump's fault, it's not. Because without Democrat votes in the Senate, there is no path to 60 votes. And it's so disappointing to see Chuck Schumer and other Democrats willing to throw our military under the bus, children under the bus.
Except there wasn't the majority, though, with the Republicans. So,
but Frederica, there's no path to 60 without Democrat votes.
But there were 5 Republicans who refrained from being in support of that proposal.
Correct, and I think they would. First of all, 90% of Republicans voted for it. 90%. I think only 10% of Democrats. But I suspect that that Republican leadership could whip those couple votes on the Republican side if they knew there was a path to 60. But Democrats are willing to shut down our government over a policy proposal that doesn't even expire until weeks from now.
Okay, so let's talk about moving forward, because we did hear that there is some momentum, Dave, by way of Lindsey Graham's comments, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, that they are working on something. 20, senators, bipartisan, were, behind closed doors working on something. And now we understand that, moderate Democrats are taking part in a meeting right now. They've gone into the minority leader, Chuck Schumer's office. Do you believe that this is momentum in the right direction?
It's promising. We'll see what happens. We don't know all the details. Obviously, it looks like they're still being hammered out. But look, Frederica, at the end of the day, the Democrats are lockstep with the American people. CBS's poll the other day said 9 out of 10 Americans overwhelmingly support a pathway to citizenship for the DACA recipients. And it's not just Democrats.
Not at the risk of shutting down the government.
Yeah, that's right.
57% of Democrats think that they should. But going back, Republicans overwhelmingly support cutting a deal for the DACA recipients. In that same poll, it showed that 80% of Republicans want to get a deal done on this issue. So the Democrats have the American people on their side. It's up to Republicans to cut a deal.
So Dems have said they didn't want to kick the can down the road any further on immigration, and that's why they wanted this proposal to be inclusive, keeping the government running, keeping the funding going, and at the same time address immigration. So if this latest proposal that Lindsey Graham was describing would mean keeping the government running until February 8th, and then a promise to deliver on addressing immigration before the March deadline, will Democrats come to the table on that, Dave?
I think you might be able to peel off some Democrats. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what the details are. And there's other issues. Let's not forget that Democrats care about beyond just the DACA issue. There's CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program, which is vitally important to our most vulnerable in our society. Democrats want a permanent funding solution. The House bill put forward a six-year extension for funding. Democrats want a more longer-term solution to the bill. So it's not just the DACA issue that's the holdup. I think there's a number of other elements that Democrats care about.
So, John, it's pretty remarkable, is it not, that you would hear members of Congress who essentially have said they're not getting direction from the president on this. They are now taking matters in their own hand. We have not heard a statement coming from the president except by way of tweet when he was, proposing a nuclear option, on a simple majority. But then there was this ad that has been released by the White House as a result of the shutdown. Take a listen.
President Trump is right. Build the wall. Deport criminals. Stop illegal immigration now. Democrats who stand in our way will be complicit in every murder committed by illegal immigrants.
So how is that helpful, John?
Well, I mean, that's largely what the president ran on, is building the wall. And look, I think the president and the White House are doing exactly the right thing by not blinking. One thing I saw when Senator Murkowski and Collins came on screen, you saw Senator Heitkamp from North Dakota, who's very vulnerable for reelect, jump into the screen at the last second. I think I saw actually
not want to answer about whether the president should be involved.
Right, because
That
I think I saw beads of sweat coming down her forehead. Democrats are beginning to crack because they know that they're responsible for this shutdown, and if they don't come to the table to open up the government again, that will cost senators like Heitkamp her reelect.
So, Dave?
Frederica, that ad was absolutely abhorrent and deplorable and disgusting. It is just further evidence of Donald Trump sowing the seeds of discord across this country. It's why people call him the divider in chief. This is not a president who's out to unify the country. He's out to score cheap political points in a very disgusting, abhorrent way.
At the same time, Dave, is there a feeling, among Democrats that perhaps they may be paying a hefty price for the government being shut down?
I don't think so, because at the end of the day, Republicans control all arms of the federal bureaucracy and the government. They control the White House, the United States Senate, and the House of Representatives. So Americans are going to be looking to the 2018 elections, and they're going to be seeing which party is in power, and they're going to vote as a referendum against Donald Trump. It's why we saw victories for Democrats in Virginia, in New Jersey, and, of course, in Alabama.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Dave Jacobson, John Thomas, always good to see you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, still to come.